Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the BGF podcast. BGF while we're in Europe. And today we decided to do a rookie tier list ranking for you guys. Who you should target in Dynasty if you haven't done your rookie draft already. And who we believe should go certain places. It's kind of our big board, top 15 picks, but in a little ranking system. So like a tier list. So yeah, that pretty much wraps it up. You have anything you want to tell them?
Yeah, now that we've seen the picks and we kind of had time to reflect on the landing spots and how we feel about the prospects, so this is a good time to give you guys our list, and I'm pretty confident on these. I've done quite a few rookie mocks since the draft, so I think this is really solidified my tiers. Just the bottom is kind of like, I feel like after you get past the first 8, I feel like it kind of gets a bit all over the place, because there's a lot of question marks on all these guys, there's a reason why they're going at the spot they are, but we'll get into that once we get to that point of the list, and we'll start it off. You want to start it off with your S tier?
All right, so my S tier, the cream of the crops, 101, Mr. Caleb Williams. Then I got Marvin Harrison Jr., and a shocker to some, shouldn't be, but J.J. McCarthy is my 103.
The Vikings fan has McCarthy at 103. What a surprise.
I would have put him at 101, but you know what? Brandon talked me out of it. And no, but realistically, Caleb Williams has a great landing spot in Chicago. He's got receivers. He's got weapons. It's a lot better off than what Fields had when he came into the league 4 years ago, in Chicago at least. And I do believe Caleb Williams has a good team around him. Marvin Harrison Jr. is just the alpha wide receiver of this class. We haven't seen as good a prospect as him in a long, long time. And he's going to start instantly. He's going to get his targets. He will be fed. Don't be scared of drafting Marvin Harrison Jr. anywhere. Even though he went to the Cardinals, doesn't matter. They got Kyler Murray, giving him a weapon. Just got to help out on the O-line a little bit, and that team is legit. J.J. McCarthy. You talk about a great fit for a quarterback. There's none better than what J.J. McCarthy's got. J.J. is coming into a team that has arguably the best wide receiver duo in the league, just solely based on the fact that they have Justin Jefferson, who is the best wide receiver in the NFL.
Unarguably.
I don't care what anyone says. Thank you, Brandon. And he's coming into a decent O-line, very good tight end, decent run game with potential. I do like Aaron Jones and Ty Chandler a lot. The interior is a little bit of a struggle, but not too bad. Then on the defensive side of things, you got Brian Flores running the thing. This is a good team. This has been the best team any quarterback could have been landed on. Every single quarterback in this class said they wanted to go to the Vikings for a reason. And J.J. McCarthy is going to shine. Even if he is just a system quarterback, it does not matter. The Vikings have the weapons to make this man succeed. I absolutely love this fit, and I think J.J. McCarthy is going to shine in the NFL.
I don't hate it. I just feel like S tier is a bit high, but 103, I could see an argument for it. Anyway, for me, I'm going to get into my S tier. 2 of the guys you had on yours. My 101, Caleb Williams. We see the team, the offense that he's going into, with the weapons that he has: Keenan Allen, Rome Odunze, DJ Moore. They added DeAndre Swift, and they've got an improved O-line. It's not like one of the better O-lines, but it's at least middle of the pack, maybe slightly over middle of the pack. So it's a great situation for Caleb Williams. He's been the guy. He's been hyped up since he won the Heisman 2 years ago. And I feel like people are starting to overthink it, all this bust stuff. I'm not buying it. And to me, Caleb Williams is easily the 101 and a generational type prospect, and should be the 101 in all drafts. And then next up, Marvin Harrison Jr. going into a great situation in Arizona. At least gets a quarterback who, we know the second wide receiver off the board in this draft doesn't really have much of a great quarterback.
No.
Yeah, he gets Kyler Murray in a good system. And even with Marvin Harrison Jr., I feel like him and Malik Neighbors are pretty close. But obviously the name value of Malik Neighbors is always going to hold value. And he's a great wide receiver. I'm not even going to... He's one of the best wide receiver talents we've seen probably since Jamar Chase, and he'll be a superstar in the NFL. I have no doubts about it. I'm sure he'll be great, and he rounds off my S tier.
Aren't you happy you're playing him twice a year?
No. I hate that he went to Arizona, that we're going to have to play him twice a year, but it is what it is. I'm not scared of that Cardinals team in general, though. They're kind of...
You should.
We'll see. We'll see. Maybe in the coming years they'll add some more pieces, but for now they're probably still... You know, they could make an argument for third best team in the division. Maybe they're better than Seattle, but I feel like Seattle's got a bit more on their defense. And
shit throwing a shit. I love that.
They definitely got better quarterback play. So anyway, I'll move on to A tier now. My 103 is Jaden Daniels, and second overall pick in the draft. We saw what he did at LSU, especially as for fantasy wise, his rushing potential. He could easily finish as the best rookie quarterback fantasy wise, just off rushing, and he could win offensive rookie of the year. I wouldn't be surprised, second overall. And he's going to a pretty. He's not going to a great situation in Washington, but he's going to a serviceable situation in Washington. He's got a weapon in Terry McLaurin, sorry. And the offensive line's a bit of a question in Washington. It's not great, but they did add some guys in the draft who I've heard good things about, so we'll see if they can maybe pan out. But I really like Jaden Daniels and his upside. And next up, at my 104, I got Malik Neighbors, who went 6th overall to the New York Giants. He's a bit of a question mark having Daniel Jones as his quarterback, but I'm just going to believe in the talent of Malik Neighbors. Another guy that if Marvin Harrison Jr. wasn't in this draft, he'd easily be the first wide receiver off the board, and he'd be the best talent. And he'd be the best receiving talent in the draft, easily in most drafts. Shows how good this class is in terms of receivers. And it's a bit of a question mark, but going forward, maybe I still think he'll be able to put up 1,000 yards even with Daniel Jones. I'm that much of a believer, and especially we know those LSU receivers, how good they transition to the NFL. So
Justin Jefferson.
I really like Malik Neighbors as my 104. And then next up, Drake May at the 105. I know a lot of people are going to have McCarthy, you included. I don't hate it. I think they're both very similar. I just think Drake May, I like the talent a bit more of Drake May than McCarthy. And I just feel like there's a bit more upside there. So I'm going to go with May, but I really don't mind having McCarthy ahead of him. And it's just a bit of a rough situation in New England, but I liked what they did in the draft, especially our receiver getting Polk and Javon Baker. I don't know. It might be a rough year one, but I think long term, I trust the Patriots to get Drake May in a decent situation, and I feel like he could be pretty solid. And I'm gonna have him as my 105, and then finally rounding off my A tier at the 106, JJ McCarthy. Maybe I'll have him a bit low. He could be even higher. Honestly, he could be at the top. I feel like this whole tier of A that I've had in this A tier has been pretty interchangeable. So yeah, I'm gonna have him here. Just he obviously went the latest out of all these guys. He went 10th. But I love the situation he's in Minnesota, and wouldn't surprise me if he ends up having probably the most successful career out of these guys because of how good his situation is and having an offensive play caller as his head coach. So that's going to round off my A tier with McCarthy at 106.
No, don't hate that. My A tier is a little similar to you. I just have a few changes. Starting it off, I got Malik Neighbors leading the charge. Then I got Jaden Daniels and Drake May, followed lastly by Brock Bowers. The reason why I had Malik Neighbors ahead of Jaden Daniels is because I just don't trust the output from Daniels year one. I think that Washington situation is a bit rough right now. But I do like his rushing upside. You made a very good point there. And I do think he's going to be the third best quarterback in this class behind J.J. McCarthy and Caleb Williams. But that's just me. I trust in Malik Neighbors a little bit more right now. I love his talent. I just feel like he's going to command targets. There's absolutely no competition at the New York Giants receiving room. So Malik Neighbors is going to be the clear alpha. You're going to need someone to step up a little bit. Maybe that's where Darius Slayton fits more into that wide receiver 2/3 role. Wandale maybe steps up. We shall see. But yeah, Drake May, have him sitting behind Jaden Daniels. Brandon hit the nail on the head here. Rough year one. There's absolutely nothing in New England. It's gonna be ugly.
Whoa, Javon Baker, don't disrespect.
It's gonna be ugly. Even with Javon Baker, it's gonna be ugly.
Yeah.
He doesn't have an O-line, doesn't have a decent run game. You're gonna have to rely on Drake May to bail you out of situations, and I do think he is a great quarterback, and he will be able to do that. Not yet. You got to help him out a little bit more. You can't just put him in a situation and expect him to succeed. It's going to be similar to Mac Jones, where they just threw him in there with absolutely nothing. But different head coach, different general manager. I do think they're going to help him out, and they're going to build him a good team in a few years. Just not right now. But I do trust in the talent. I wouldn't be scared to take him here. And rounding off my A tier is Brock Bowers, another guy who I think is going to absolutely take over the league next season. You just need to get the ball in his hands. It doesn't matter where he is on the field. He's going to make the catch, and he's going to run, and he's going to get the yards. Just get him the ball, force feed him, do whatever you need to do. He's going to be the alpha tight end in this receiver class. Love the talent. Raiders is a bit of a
Rough spot.
tough spot for Brock Bowers. Doesn't really have a quarterback. You know, you got Levante Adams, the receiving room, who's going to command targets himself. So you have some targets taken away from you. But either way, whoever the quarterback is in Vegas isn't going to be able to dice up defenses. So Brock Bowers should see significant targets, and I do like him at the end of my A tier here. Moving on to my B tier, I got Brian Thomas Jr. leading the charge, followed by Rome Odunze and Xavier Worthy. That's going to be my B tier. Brian Thomas Jr., I really like the fit in Jacksonville. I think he's going to help out that offense quite a lot. They still don't have that alpha. And I do think in a few years, Brian Thomas Jr. can be the alpha.
Gabe Davis, not a fan. I'm joking.
I mean,
I'm kidding.
Not that I hate Gabe Davis and Christian Kirk. I just don't see them as like the guy.
Yeah. Brian Thomas has the potential to.
Brian Thomas has the potential to like be the guy. You know, like Christian Kirk is your speed. Gabe Davis is sort of your slot guy. You need your alpha, and I think Brian Thomas Jr. fits in that role. I don't know how successful he will be year one, but I do see him getting over 1,000 yards. That's a very attainable goal, especially with this young Jacksonville team when Trevor Lawrence still developing a quarterback. I do see him getting targets, and I do see him doing really well. Rome Odunze, I have him a little low here on my list. That's just because I don't like the landing spot that much as people think. Obviously, he's coming in with Caleb, and Caleb wanted him. And, Caleb's going to help him. 2 college guys coming into the league. They're going to stick together. They're going to grow up together, develop this and that. But you got DJ Moore and Keenan Allen. Where does Odunze fit? Like,
I think it's a good fit, though.
Yeah, because like you can make the case for Keenan being older and then eventually he's going to take that role over. But you got DJ Moore, who's one of the better young wide receivers in the NFL. You know, just entering his prime, really.
In terms of the way they play, though, I feel like it fits pretty decent. Just I don't know how it translates to production like right away. But
Yeah.
I like DJ Moore as their like spread the field guy, downfield guy. Keenan Allen, obviously more.
Your inside slant
Yeah,
stuff.
exactly. And then Rome Odunze, your contested catch guys. I
Your
feel like they all have
physical.
pretty decent, different skill sets, which it fits. But in terms of actual fantasy production, I think you're right.
I
don't
don't
know
think
what
he'll translate right away. I do think you're going to have to wait a little bit on him, sort of like Brian Thomas Jr., but it just might take a little longer. Because whereas in Brian Thomas's case, there's not really much competition there, whereas Odunze has competition. And then Xavier Worthy, Chiefs drafted him round 1. You got to put him here. Anyone that Pat Mahomes has is going to get targets. He's going to be able to catch the ball, and we're just going to see really with Xavier Worthy if he's good, if he's not good. He will get the targets. It's just, will it translate from college to the NFL? I do believe in him. I just don't think he's going to be an alpha in that receiving room with Travis Kelce there. I think Travis Kelce's still going to be the 1. He's going to be the 2. But I don't hate Worthy here whatsoever. I really like him here, and that's going to round off my B tier.
I don't hate it. I like it. Next up, my B tier. I'm going to start it off with my 107. It's going to be Rome Odunze. Just talked about him there. I like the fit. I like where he fits into the offense. Like I said, I don't know about the production immediately, but I like that he's attached to Caleb Williams, and being the 9th overall pick as a wide receiver, you're going to get some manufactured touches, and they'll make it work. So I like him there. And then 108, Brock Bowers, a generational talent at tight end. We've seen a few of these in the past years, so haven't worked out right. But I think him and Kyle Pitts are different styles of tight end. Kyle Pitts is more basically like a wide receiver, a lot of downfield stuff. Bowers is more shorter, intermediate stuff, and Brock Bowers is just a freak because you can't even put this guy in the backfield, which is crazy.
Rush.
Yeah, exactly. For a tight end, which is you don't see that often, but it's really the Vegas landing spot that does it for me. Like, they drafted Michael Mayer last year. I know Michael Mayer hasn't done enough for me to be like, oh yeah, he really affects Brock Bowers. Brock Bowers is going to come in. He's going to be their tight end 1. And it's really more for Mayer that it affects, and him being kind of taking a back seat. And I like Brock Bowers as the talent's just the landing spot's a bit iffy, and with Gardner Minshew as the quarterback, I don't know. We'll see how it goes, but I think he's solid. And now I'm gonna start off with my C tier. I feel like there's a huge tier break here for me after these first top 8. I feel like you're getting guaranteed stuff with the top 8. Like, if you're drafting the top 8, you're gonna get a guy that's gonna be productive at least in the first 2 years.
Yeah.
I feel like in these C tier guys, you're probably gonna get some guys that could bust. So The first guy in my C tier as my 109 is going to be Xavier Worthy. I'm not even that big of a fan of Xavier Worthy as a prospect, but like you said, going to the Chiefs, Andy Reid in the first round, I kind of just see the upside, and I'm going to take a chance on it at 109 because there's not a guy that I see over him that really excites me. So I'm going to have Xavier Worthy there. And plus, with the speed that he has, we know how big of a thing that could be for fantasy and how he could get these chunk plays and have huge spike weeks. So I like the upside there in terms of Worthy, but not too big of a fan of the prospect. Next up at 110, this is one that may be a bit early, but I'm really sorry. Honestly, originally I wasn't too high on him, but seeing the landscape of running back right now and how like scarce the position really is, we're seeing a lot of guys get a lot older, and there's not a lot of great like assets at running back right now. So I got Jonathan Brooks at the 110. I really like the landing spot in Carolina, as it's a quite open backfield, and him getting top 50 draft capital, being drafted in the top 50, is also a huge thing, and being the first running back off the board. So I feel like he is obviously coming off the ACL injury, so I don't know if he'll play right away. Probably the first 4 weeks. He might be a pupless guy. We'll see. But I think once he gets up to speed and he's back playing at his best, and he is only 20 years old, so that gives him a big advantage. Going into next year, he has this whole year, and next year he'll be 21. So he's a very young prospect.
Was he the youngest guy drafted? I'm pretty sure he was. I'm not.
He's definitely he's definitely in like the conversation. I'm not sure if he completely is, but he might be.
Check that. Fact check that real quick. You guys get drafted this year.
Like I said, 20 years old, and plus I'm not scared at all of Miles Sanders and Chuba Hubbard, so I'm pretty sure once he gets up to speed, he'll take over in that backfield and be the running back one, and I feel like there's huge upside there, and he could, with the age that he has, I could see him ending up in that. I don't know if he'll end up in the Brees Hall tier, but I wouldn't be surprised if he's a second round, late second, third, early third startup pick by next year. So I really like Jonathan Brooks, and I think he has a pretty nice upside, especially at the 110 if you can get him. Next up, Brian Thomas. You talked about him earlier. I like it in Jacksonville. There's definitely potential for him to be the wide receiver one there, as like you said, not really an alpha with Christian Kirk, Gabe Davis. There's a lot of bodies in that receiver room, but not really a huge talent. So I like Brian Thomas, and there could be some upside there. I like the speed, the type of receiver he is. Another guy that could be good right away. And then the last guy in my C tier, Ladd McConkey, going to the LA Chargers. Another wide open receiver room with not much talent. We saw they brought in DJ Chark the other day. They brought in guys like they have Josh Palmer still.
Quentin Johnston.
They drafted Cornelius Johnson from Michigan. Like, not much in that receiver room. So I'd expect McConkey pretty early on to be the number one guy there. Maybe the two. Maybe Josh Palmer. We know Josh Palmer is a guy that Herbert does kind of like. So I think the worst case scenario, you're getting McConkey as a wide receiver too there. It's not going to be a super pass-heavy offense, which is a concern, but at this point, you're drafting, this is my 112, so basically almost a second-round pick. So you're not going to get the perfect prospect. I just think that I like the player, and a decent landing spot. So he's going to finish off my first round and finish off my C tier. Ladd McConkey, my 112.
Yeah, and just to touch up on that Jonathan Brooks thing, which I just checked it right now, the only people younger than him right now are Malik Neighbors, Audric Estim, and Braylon Allen. So fourth youngest guy in this draft, and coming off that ACL, yes, it's a bit scary, but he has time. And
I didn't realize Neighbors was that young too. So
I know, me too. I was a little shocked by that. Moving on to my C tier, I got Coleman leading the charge, then I got McConkey, and I got Trey Benson as my running back one off the board. So Coleman is going into a great situation. There's absolutely nothing in front of him. You got Khalil Shakir to compete with, who, no disrespect to Khalil Shakir, it's just you've been in the league now for 3 years. You haven't really commanded targets. I don't see it happening right now, but I mean, now you're not going to have a choice. So he comes in. Clear number one guy in Buffalo, in my opinion. You drafted him there for a reason. And he's going to be commanding targets. You got Josh Allen at quarterback. Doesn't matter who you are, you're going to eat in that offense. And yeah. Then McConkey, Brandon touched up on him earlier. Same sort of situation. We're the Chargers, who don't really have much right now in the receiving room. Hopefully develops chemistry with Herbert and starts to get those targets that we should expect. I like McConkey, the prospect. I'm just a little bit of a bigger fan of Coleman, just because I prefer Josh Allen, personal preference, over Herbert, but that's just me. These two are pretty much interchangeable in my opinion. And then I got Trey Benson, my running back, one off the board. You made a pretty good case about Jonathan Brooks. It's just that ACL thing is really, really scaring me right now with him.
But Benson's also coming off the same injury, so.
Was it the same tear?
I'm not 100% sure, but I know he's coming off a major injury as well, Benson. That's why the running back class in this.
They sort of did, yeah. I know he was coming off an injury, but I didn't know it was an ACL thing. If that's the case, then I'm going to have to readjust. But anyways, my argument for Trey Benson is you're going to Arizona. You got James Conner in the backfield. A little bit of an older guy. He's been very, very consistent for the Cardinals. No disrespect to Conner. Absolutely love his game, but Trey Benson's the young guy. You're going to split. He's going to get his carries, and I do see Trey Benson, taking over that backfield. I like him a lot also at the back, catch the ball, and I think he's going to be really, really successful in Arizona. You just got to give him time. Maybe not this year, but definitely in 2-3 years, Trey Benson is going to be that middle of the tier running back one. He's going to have that kind of value I can see with him, and I like to fit in Arizona. Moving on to my D tier, my last two prospects in this class. Two quarterbacks. I got Bo Nix and Michael Penix Jr. Bo Nix, right? Sean Payton.
You're out of it.
If you're somehow listening to this podcast,
Time to retire.
It's time to retire. Stop the cap. There's no way you were going into this draft saying Bo Nix was your QB1. I don't care
Did he actually say that?
Said Bo Nix was my guy from the beginning.
Well, yeah, you kind of have to say that.
You have to say that. But then you come out and blatantly say that you forced the Vikings to trade up for the Jets. Come on, man. You're completely out of it. If you had the opportunity to trade up, you were definitely trading up. You were not satisfied with Bo Nix. I don't care what anyone says. He is one of the oldest quarterbacks in this draft class. Systematic guy. We know what we have in Bo Nix. At least with the other guys, you got some type of potential. Same can be said about Michael Penix Jr., but I'll get into that soon. He's going to Denver. Denver has absolutely nothing in front of him. He's going to be throwing a Cortland Sutton for the rest of his career. And I don't think Bo Nix is a bad prospect. I do think he's a decent quarterback. I just don't like the fit whatsoever in Denver. They don't really have a run game. Their O-line's not too great. It's going to be a rough year for Bo Nix. That's why I have him in the D tier. Michael Penix Jr.
Gotta wait at least 2 years minimum.
You gotta wait at least 2 years for this guy. You're paying Kirk Cousins $180 million. The first 2 years of his contract are fully guaranteed, so there's no way you're moving off him yet. But you drafted Penix at 8. I do think the goal is to play him eventually. I just don't know when that will happen, if that will ever happen, because in 4 years from now, who's to say Michael Penix wants to play for the Falcons? I don't know.
28 years old.
20 years of age, hasn't really put an NFL snap. What do you do? Like, he's an older quarterback. If you were Atlanta and you drafted J.J. McCarthy, I would understand it a lot more than Michael Penix, but I still wouldn't get it. What are you doing? You're killing the kid's potential. He's not going to be playing next season. He won't be playing the year after. You might get him in 3 years, but even then, what kind of cap hell are you going to be in, because you have to sign Kyle Pitts, Drake London, all these guys? I don't know. This was when this happened live. I remember just being completely mind boggled, not understanding this pick whatsoever, and like sleeping on it, thinking about it, really like trying to process this. I
Nothing's
still don't
changed.
get it. This is like a what the fuck moment, and yeah, I feel bad for Michael Penix. I would try to fade him, but I figured he was 8th overall for a reason, so you have to put him on this list. I really don't like Michael Penix Jr.
Yeah, I don't have Penix on my list at all, so I just want to give a little bit on the Penix situation. I feel bad for the kid, number
I feel
one.
bad. I feel really bad.
And did you know that Trey Lance is still younger than Michael Penix right now? And Trey Lance can't get a shot anywhere. So instead of investing the 8th overall pick, why don't they just trade for Trey Lance and let him sit behind a bit and then maybe put him in later? I don't know. Anyway, I'm still vouching for my guy, but I don't know. It's just a weird situation with Penix, and It's just unfortunate for the kid that he went there. But anyway, I'll move on. There, you had anything
That
else?
was that wraps up my list. Sorry, the Phoenix thing just really.
Anyway, I'm gonna move on to my D tier here. The first guy in my 201, Bo Nix. I hate the prospect. I really think this guy should have been going probably in the third, fourth round. He somehow finds his way as a 12th overall pick to the Denver Broncos. That's the only reason why I have him this high. He's gonna start right away, and he was drafted. He has a draft capital at the 12th overall pick, so you gotta have him higher enough.
Yeah.
I'm just not really a big fan here. I know Sean Payton's, and I know the comparison to him has been Drew Brees. I don't really see it. I get it. Middle of the field. He targets the middle of the field, so similar, but I don't know. I just don't think he's anywhere near the processing that Drew Brees had, and I feel like he's kind of what people say about Brock Purdy is a ding-dong quarterback. I think that's what I think Bo Nix really is. So
just in a worse system and a worse scheme, and just you don't really got much.
If I'm drafting Bo Nix, I really don't like it. I'm really just taking him because he's a 12th overall pick and he's gonna start right away. That's really the only reason why I have him this high. Anyway, now my next guy, my 202 is gonna be Keon Coleman. I liked it at first because I thought the same thing that he's gonna be the only guy in Buffalo, but after seeing some things, and I'm like, Keon Coleman. You look at the wide receiver that they have in Buffalo and Shakir and Samuel, 2 slog guys. Keon Coleman.
It's just a third slog guy.
He's another slog guy. So I get they have no one, but how does it really fit? And plus Buffalo, they were saying that they want to play him as an X downfield guy, which is not really how he was successful in college. So
one thing I have to say on that, they classified Justin Jefferson as a slot guy.
Yeah.
And we know what happened.
So yeah, I just feel like Buffalo might have fallen in love with the personality of Keon Coleman.
Yeah.
We've obviously seen how he's a person. He's obviously a personality. We've seen it with the clips. So I feel like Buffalo might have fallen in love with the person more than
the player,
the fit with the roster.
Yeah.
That's one thing that scares me a bit with Coleman, but he's probably the best talent in that slot. So maybe he'll end up playing. Maybe he does develop into what they want, and I really hope he succeeds because, like we've seen, he looks like a great guy, and you want to see him around in the NFL for years to come. So I'm gonna have him there. There's just some question marks for me on Keon Coleman there, so I'm gonna have him at my 202, and then my last guy, my 15th guy, my 203, Trey Benson. I like the situation in Arizona. Pretty nice spot. Obviously coming off a major injury, him as well. I feel like year one, like I've been telling you, I think him and Connor are going to split reps. I really would compare him to Rashad White's situation when he came into the league. I feel like he did with Fournette, they kind of split carries at the beginning, and it was more like Fournette was kind of the main guy right away. I feel like Connor's going to get the majority of not majority, but it's probably going to be like a 60-40 split, and I feel like Connor's going to get the 60. And then after year two, they're going to let go of Connor, and then they probably won't bring anyone else in. I think Trey Benson's going to be all go bang, and he'll be the starter in year two. So I really like the upside in year two with Trey Benson. Just year one might be a bit of a slow start, and I feel like he's the type of guy you might be able to buy low on midway through the year, so I don't hate that as a low target, as a guy to get later on in the year. But I still think there's definitely, for his career, there's a lot of potential there, and I like Trey Benson as my 203 and my second running back off the board, and that's going to do it for my tier list.
There you go. You don't got Michael Penix in there, you're probably one of the smart routes.
Yeah. Penix, you can make him an argument, because when he's going to start, he's definitely going to have a lot of value, like Jordan Love. So if you're willing to wait, he'll probably be decent when he does end up starting. It's just, are you willing to wait? And I don't know how many people are willing to wait, because I feel like after midway, a year and a half of having him and not starting, I feel like his value just drops. So it's really, do you want to invest for the long term with Penix?
Yeah, and I mean, just to touch up on the Michael Penix thing. Now, if you're an Atlanta fan, right, you got a pissed off quarterback who's just come into your team, brand new, squeaky clean deal, very nice payday, and you go and draft a quarterback. You're just pissing off Kirk right now.
I don't think he's pissed off, because he knows he's gonna start and he's got the guaranteed money, so I'm sure he's really all worried.
I don't think he's happy though. I mean, you go and draft a quarterback. You're like, why are you already picking out my next guy? You haven't even seen me play. It's just weird.
It's been the same situation everywhere he's been though. So
Yeah, but the difference is with us he had like I don't even Nick Mullins as the backup. Like Nick Mullins was never starting. Kalen Mond. Like I was don't get me wrong. I had faith in Kellen Mond, but like
it was never happening.
It was never happening. It was a dreamer, right? And it's just it is what it is. But no, I mean, hey, you know what? I hope for the kid he does eventually start and he does do good in the NFL. You just got to be patient.
I don't think Cousins is really going to be worried. He's living in Atlanta. He's living in Julie's hometown. So I think $100 million guaranteed. I think all's well for Kirk Cousins.
That's true. Anyways, that's gonna wrap up our tier list for the rookies. We should be back live with a new episode in the next week or two. Once again, we're in Europe for the time being, so pre-recorded these ones just to give you some content. Hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and follow us on our socials. Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram. And leave a comment, hit the like, subscribe, hit the bell for all future videos, and we will see you in the next one.
See ya!